He got his PhD is sort of saying what it is that the Heritage Foundation needs him to say. That's not the kind of person, left or right, under Democratic or Republican presidents, who runs the BLS. That's not how this works. That's not the person who's in charge of collecting statistics. We know what the issues are with the BLS right now. One of the problems is they have lower response rates. Households and companies are not responding to surveys, which means survey data comes in a little late and it's not as accurate as it used to be. This is a problem that is well identified. We had a commission that was working on it. The Trump administration dissolved that commission on August 1st. There's a way to solve this problem, and we decided not to do it. And instead, we have an economist whose job is to say stuff for Trump, doing a thing that is highly technical, that even though he has a PhD, is not qualified.
All right, for the viewer out there who says, I don't pay attention to the BLS, I'm not sure what it is, and I certainly don't focus on who the commissioner is, why does this pick matter?
Well, and I think it matters because I think the NVIDIA story and this seem like different stories, but they're actually one story, which is about when you see an economy start to slip away and lose trust, it's because, number one, companies feel like they have to pay tribute to the government in order to do business in that country. And number two, the quality of data starts to disintegrate as people feel like the government has a thumb on the scale to produce favorable outcomes. And my concern would be with this new BLS commissioner, not only are there concerns about his qualifications, and contrast that with the previous commissioner who spent 12 years at the Census Bureau studying labor statistics in a nonpartisan way before getting this job. But what kind of person is willing to step up and take this job after Trump fired the previous person for not producing a jobs report that was up to his standards? You're clearly selecting for the type of person who is at least open to the idea of massaging the data, and there's various ways of doing that, in order to please the leader. And once you start to get that type of concern and that type of perception about the quality of the data coming out of the government, you're quickly down a slippery slope that threatens the thing that makes this country great and our economy strong, which is the rule of law and foreign and domestic investment in our companies and our consumers. And we are really threatening that with all of these steps that Trump is taking.
And of course, an independent central bank is one of the things that makes us so attractive to foreign investment. Gentlemen, every time you're here, I just sit here and say, I'm so grateful for your response to our hour. Thank you so much for that. And Brenda, when you return, how much of President Trump reporter who sat down and crunched the numbers, he is going to show us all of his work, and I'm pretty sure he'll answer the question, is this White House for sale?
Trump calls it embarrassing to
All right, that's going to do it.
To unseal the grand jury testimony in the criminal case of Ghislaine Maxwell, in which she was convicted of sex trafficking for and with Jeffrey Epstein, who said he was Donald Trump's closest friend for 10 years. Diversion is what Donald Trump is all about. Now more than ever, Donald Trump doesn't want the news media attention on his old friend Jeffrey Epstein and what the Epstein files might say about Donald Trump, where we know Donald Trump's name appears multiple times because his attorney general told him that. Donald Trump is sending the National Guard into Washington, D.C. 5 years late. Donald Trump didn't activate any troops on January 6th when his private troops were attacking the Capitol after he told them to go there and fight like hell. And he lied to them when he told them that he was going to go there with them. The biggest crime spree in the history of Washington, D.C. was on January 6th for Donald Trump, and Donald Trump did not send the National Guard that day. But now Donald Trump wants us all to be talking about his decision to send just enough National Guard troops onto the streets of Washington, D.C., so that news cameras can get pictures of them, the same pictures we've seen from Los Angeles, where the troops had absolutely nothing to do and are there for no reason at all, other than as a diversion from Donald Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, which may be described in the Epstein files in a way that Donald Trump wants to keep secret forever. Donald Trump is going to put 200 National Guard troops on the streets of Washington, D.C. That means there will be more hotel doormen on the streets of Washington, D.C. than National Guard troops. There are 3,400 Washington, D.C. police officers in addition to 1,800 Capitol police officers, bringing the total uniformed police officer count in Washington, D.C. to 5,200, without even counting the hundreds of federal uniformed officers working in law enforcement in Washington, D.C., thousands of them actually, as U.S. Marshals, Secret Service agents, FBI agents, and others. And so 100 National Guard troops who will be on the street or just a photo op. He'll have to send 800 total in order to cover the 8-hour shifts, but only 200 at a time will be on the street, and that will just be for the pictures. A photo op to please Trump voters who apparently want Donald Trump to play these games with troops in cities that elect Democratic mayors. We will surely see this same scene play out in other cities that Donald Trump hates because Democrats live there. The troops' presence will always be tiny compared to the police force already in place, but the TV cameras will magnify the troops' presence, and the endless talk about them online and on cable news and elsewhere will have Donald Trump's intended effect of amusing his supporters and diverting attention from Donald Trump's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell remains the only child rapist in history who received well wishes from a president of the United States. Donald Trump said, "I wish her well," this was after she was charged with sex trafficking. And after she was charged with sexually abusing children, that's when Donald Trump said, "I wish her well." And so Donald Trump's attempts at diversion have become ever more frantic. Donald Trump is using tariffs. He's using Vladimir Putin now. He's using whatever he can think of, whenever he can think of it, to create the kind of diversion that a federal judge found today when he denied the release of the transcripts of the Ghislaine Maxwell grand jury. In his 31-page ruling, the judge revealed what is in the grand jury transcripts. Now we know. The judge described the testimony to the grand jury without quoting any of it, and reduced it all to this statement: there is no there there. The judge read the grand jury transcripts and wrote, "The court's review confirmed that unsealing the grand jury materials would not reveal new information of any consequence. There's no there there. There's information in the grand jury transcripts." That's what the judge told us today, and that is what Donald Trump already knew before Donald Trump's attorney general and Donald Trump's deputy attorney general, who used to be Donald Trump's personal criminal defense lawyer, asked to have those meaningless grand jury transcripts unsealed. They knew there was no new information in the secret grand jury transcripts that was not already revealed at the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. They knew that everything in those transcripts came out in testimony in Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, where Ghislaine Maxwell dared testify under oath in her own defense. That's why the Trump, who was asked to unseal the jury transcripts that we don't already know. The judge said that the Trump Justice Department's argument for releasing the grand jury transcripts was, quote, demonstrably false. Demonstrably false. You could spend an entire career in the law prior to the Trump era and never see a federal judge describe the justice as demonstrably false. But New York federal judge Paul Engelbaum who was appointed by President Barack Obama, said this about the Trump Justice Department's argument. Its entire premise that the Maxwell grand jury materials would bring to light meaningful new information about Epstein's and Maxwell's crimes or the government's investigation into them is demonstrably false. The judge described what happened in the Maxwell and the Epstein grand jury. For investigative purposes, they did not hear from any first-hand witness to any event, did not hear testimony from any victim, eyewitness, suspect, or even a records. Each grand jury received evidence on a day. On that day, it heard testimony from a law enforcement agent who, acting as a summary witness, testified in the government's investigation to support the indictment. The agent, responding to tightly structured United States attorney, provided highly abbreviated accounts of the statements of select witnesses. The victim indictment were based. The agent led the jury through it. Turn the proposed indictment. The judge revealed this, quote, do not identify any person Maxwell as having had sexual not reverses of their wealth. They do not explore of Epstein's death. Donald Trump knew all of that his attorney general and his former criminal defense lawyer were going to request of the grand jury testimony. They knew in that transcript that had not already come out public. The judge said it would be reasonable for of the public to, quote, conclude that the government's motion for their unsealing was